Hello, and thank you for checking out this Uniquely Divine Conversations podcast. I am Karen Slack, the owner of Unique Beauty and Meditation.
And I'm Danielle Graham from Divine Clarity. We are here together sharing conversations about spirituality, life, and everything in between.
And we are grateful for your comments and your shares and your subscribes so that we can continue to have these conversations. And just as a reminder, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. These are conversations about our life and our experiences. And yeah, yours could be different, and that's okay. So check out this episode and enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to Uniquely Divine Conversations with Caryn and Danielle, episode 3. So exciting. Caryn and I have gotten a few requests, and we put out some feelers about trigger words and words that may be overused and underexplained. And we put it out on our social media asking what it is you want to know more about. And today we thought we'd talk about higher self or highest self, our highest good or higher good, and maybe some shadow work if we get into that. So what do you think, Caryn? You think that's a good subject to go with today?
Absolutely. I love it. I love the notion. I feel like some of these terms, and there was a few that were shared with us, but these were the ones that struck us today. And I feel like some of these terms are overused and underdefined. And I feel like they each can mean something different for each of us.
Yeah.
They can have, I guess that's one thing that I would like to do is I would encourage people listening to explore what these words mean for them.
Mm-hmm.
These are our opinions. So honor what you feel, but also if we can have a conversation about it and it helps expand your view on them and helps you understand them more, then great. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that we keep bringing it out to everybody that it's okay to have your own opinion. Just because something resonates with me doesn't even necessarily mean it's going to resonate with you. Certainly isn't going to resonate with everyone listening. So we encourage you to take what feels good to you and use that and leave the rest. I do love that everyone can have their own definition of that. It makes it divine, uniquely divine, but it makes it so personal and powerful for each person, I think. So why don't we start with higher self or highest self or higher self, however you would like to say that. Do you want to talk about that first?
Absolutely. Well, and I like the difference between higher self and highest self, because I feel like I lean more towards higher self.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you get on a spiritual journey or you hop on the spiritual path, intuitive path, self-awareness path, whatever terminology resonates with you, I feel like there's not an end goal. Mm-hmm. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And I feel like highest self to me resonates with a destination. So higher self feels like we're always evolving. There's always a new level that we get to explore. I like the higher self portion of it. For me, whenever I use the term higher self, I feel like it's the dialogue in my head that supports me. It supports me fully. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a version of myself that has learned lessons that I haven't learned yet, and that is supporting my process fully at this time. And I feel like it's that part of me that has reached goals that I haven't yet reached and has reached enlightenment on subjects that I haven't yet reached. That's what I automatically think of with higher self. How about you?
That's a beautiful thing. I like that. I've never thought about that, higher versus highest. I just feel like it's people's different vocabulary, but the highest does bring some kind of finality to that. So that's a really cool way to think about that. I also resonate with higher self. It's very rare that I say highest. But for me, it's a little bit different. For me, it's that middle ground that connects what I would consider, I guess, my highest self, that spiritual self, to this earthly self. And this higher self is that go between in the middle, the one who is supporting, the one who is guiding. I consider my highest self that voice inside my head, that fire inside my soul, the one that's guiding me through all of this, allowing me to, go at my own will, make my own mistakes, but also whispering in my ear all the little tricks of the trade that I may choose or may not choose to listen to.
Absolutely. Um, how do you experience your higher self or highest self?
Oh my gosh, in so many different ways. I am clairaudient, so a lot of times I will hear. And when there's a difference between, and I can't explain it, when I hear and I know it's not me, it's coming from like a spirit guide or a spirit, or when I know it's coming from my higher self. It's kind of deeper and definitely more recognizable, I guess I would say, as myself. But a lot of times I hear, other times it's just knowing. Sometimes it's a flash, but it's really just a knowing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
What about
I'd have to say mine is more of a knowing, um, which sometimes leaves it a little bit harder for me to decipher.
you?
But I feel like my higher self is always more patient. It's like the best attributes of me.
That's
So
it. Yeah, it's above the judgment zone.
yeah,
I really do feel that too. Hmm.
absolutely. And I guess I'd have to say when I connect to my higher self, I do it through journaling and there's a knowing to it. And a lot of times when I'm journaling or I'm moving into, I guess it would be considered more of an automatic writing, but I feel like it just starts flowing as I write. Or often in a voice memo. Sometimes it's even conversational where it's almost like the devil and the angel on the shoulder,
Hmm.
and I'm squarely in the devil situation. And then we've got the angel on this shoulder, and that's my higher self that's convincing me otherwise from my snarky, grumpy self, if that makes sense.
It
Um,
does.
but I've also connected with the notion of a higher self in meditation,
Mhm.
and experienced, I guess, parts of myself, for lack of better term, and they're not always my highest self or my higher self, but I know I've had that experience in meditation as well. So
Right, that's very cool. I feel like when you said that you know it's your higher self, I feel like my higher self, like I know it's that when I get called out on my own stuff. Like when we have those conversations and I'm like, oh, when you like just recognize your part in the play and you're like, damn it, but there it is. It's in your head and it came to you out of the blue. And oh, it was when you said journaling, because I do have that morning devotional time that I take each morning and I'm writing, and it's like an automatic writing too, where things just come to me. And that's usually when I'm calling myself out on my own stuff.
absolutely.
It's
And
like conscience.
now, don't you feel like, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but don't you feel like sometimes it's just a matter of us having a label to put to the experience we're having? Because I feel like some of the things that we're talking about, people would consider them, like, people will feel like they're talking to their angels, or they're talking to God or the source, or however they celebrate that divine connection. So I feel like, I guess, kind of coming full circle to the idea that it gets to be what we need it to be to help us make that unique divine connection and that
Right.
unique divine expression of our soul and our spirit. So if it resonates to say higher self for this meditation, maybe it will resonate and feel like you're connecting to angels in the next one. And I think it takes some self exploration to witness all of those situations without judgment and be like, you know what? This is how this one differed. And so I think it requires patience
Right.
and the ability to just sit and witness, if that makes sense.
It does. And also I think an ability to trust your judgment. I know when I go into meditation, there is a particular energy that I do come in contact once in a while, and I don't see a face, but I see a figure, and it's a recognizable figure. And in my head, I think, oh, that's my spirit guide or a spirit guide. So you just have to trust that. If that's what your body's telling you, if that's what your mind is telling you, then just go with it that day. And maybe the next day, there's something a little different and you're like, oh, that's an angel. Just go with it.
And yes, absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to write down so I didn't forget was the notion of, a lot of times for me, my higher self sounds like my imagination.
Mm.
And it's like that with the notion of, okay, I'm sitting in meditation and I hear this connection. Let me figure out how to say this. So I'm sitting in meditation and I feel like I'm connecting with a spirit guide or somebody that's crossed over or something like that. And then it becomes, okay, allow myself to imagine that this is real.
Mhm.
And it's almost like my higher self facilitates the notion. It's like the go between, like my higher self is like, okay, encouraging me to just let this imagination go to make that connection. So it's almost like my higher self is a go between who I am now and that connection to my divine, to my guide or to spirit. Does that make sense?
It does. But when you were saying that too, I wonder why. Why is it so easy for us to label spirit energy communicating with us as our imagination, but we don't allow us to think our imagination is actually spirits communicating with us? Why are we so easy to discount or discredit ourselves? It's just crazy to me. But yeah, it made
Yeah,
perfect.
sorry.
That's okay.
I do think that I use the word imagine and imagination a lot when I'm guiding meditations, because I feel like it's a term that lets people have permission to let go and explore it more.
Yeah.
Um, I know I was a very imaginative child, and I see it in my daughter, Leah, especially, and in Ava. I see it in both my children. And I often think about that, like, okay, this imagination that we're seeing, how in depth does that go with a connection to the spirit world? And my imagination when I was a kid, just exploring that. But the imagination seems very this world. And
Mhm.
it's like it gives permission in that meditative state to, okay, let the conscious go and let the subconscious expand.
Right. Well, that's what that higher self energy is for me too. It's that the in between that spirit world, the in between, to the human world. That's my
Yeah.
connection too.
And I guess I love these conversations because I guess I never realized that that's where I would place my higher self, is between me and the spirit world. Like
I
go,
always envision like, oh, I'm sorry, this like silvery gold, sparkly cord connecting me to my higher self, and then my higher self up into infinity. And she's kind of the pit stop, I guess, the go between.
absolutely. So how about highest good? Like we hear that for our highest good. And I know that's a language, that's a word that we use in so much work we do, both in the intuitive group that you created that we get to work with developing in and with clients. And our intention for the work we do is for our greatest and highest good. And that's something that we teach in Reiki. But it's so used. But what does that mean? What is our highest good?
Right. Well, it's funny because I never say higher good. I always say highest good. But I guess for me, it's just the best possible choice for you. I was told once by someone I had a reading from, and I've told my clients over and over to choose joy, to choose whatever's bringing you excitement, to choose whatever feels good to you. So obviously, you're not working towards your highest good if you're making choices that are not feeling good to you, that are not benefiting you. So that's
Absolutely.
what it is for me, just to continue to choose joy and come from a place of love and choose love.
I like the notion of my highest good being beyond what I can imagine currently. And
Hmm.
that's what I always felt like to me was my highest good was something that God or source or universal energy or my divine circle sees and knows. It's like a broader angle. Like I'm in this section viewing this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's almost like my divine circle or spirit guides are in a wider section. They're sitting up on the hill and they see the whole picture. So I feel like my highest good is permission for me to let go of where I'm seeing and let somebody else come in and guide me to the higher picture, to that broader awareness, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like every time I go to share my definition of some of these words, I use more words that need more definition.
No, it makes perfect sense. It just, I don't think about it like when during our first episode where we used the word shadow work, and then someone said, "Oh, what's shadow work?" And it just I forget because these words are such a huge part of our day-to-day language. I forget that people don't know what they are or don't don't know that they can believe whatever it is for them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I forget that, and I have to
Yep.
keep reminding myself that. I have an intuition course that I run every now and again, and someone asked me what a chakra was, and I was like totally blown away. And I'm like, all right, now I got to go back and explain chakras because I forget that.
Absolutely. And I think it's important for anybody that's watching this, if you hear, especially in this podcast, in any format, if you hear words that you do not understand, definitely ask those questions. What
Yeah.
does chakra mean? What does shadow work mean? Because that, chances are, the individual using those words doesn't recognize that they're not a part of your language. And I feel like so many of these words, like highest good and shadow work, they're attempts to define an experience that we've had.
Mhm.
And our goal, at least I can speak for myself, I'm assuming I can speak for Danielle, is to help guide you to have your own experience with those situations. So it's definitely important to speak up and be like, hey, I don't know what this is, and I want to know. Because if you have that question, somebody else has that question.
Oh, absolutely. We learned that right away.
And so, talking about highest good and the notion of shadow work, that was one of the words that we received from a couple of different spots, was shadow work. And that notion that I was talking about, where I'm here and my divine circle or powers that be are here and see around where I'm currently focused. And I feel like sometimes it's of my highest good to surrender to what I'm experiencing and seek support for seeing something broader, because I'm in the process of shadow work and it feels scary and it feels not pleasant, but it's for my highest good to be in that not pleasant moment so I can
Mhm.
get past it. And I feel like that's a really great way to bring it to the notion of shadow work, because we don't always want to look at the more non-pleasant side of things and of ourself, and sometimes it's of our highest good and soul's growth to move us into that.
That's a huge, I was just going to say that. That's how we grow. It's how we learn. It's how we evolve. I think we should back up a little and just at least say what shadow work means for both of us. For me, it's like doing that work with the counselor. It's like doing the work with my higher self. It's facing my own part in the play, taking responsibility for my actions, wondering what my triggers are, and why did it trigger? Why did X trigger me? Where is that trigger actually coming from? It's digging below the surface for me. It's finding the root of a problem, the root of a reaction, um, and not just putting a band-aid over things. So it's really digging into that darker side of ourselves, which exists in everyone and is perfectly okay, perfectly normal, and a beautiful part of us, because without the dark, you can't have the light. But like you said, it's where the growth comes from.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like the shadow work is a way to forgive our worst parts and our worst experiences.
Yeah.
It's a journey to forgive our worst parts and our worst experiences, and there's so much growth. And I don't know, I love what I do when I can sit down with somebody and it feels almost sometimes when we're dealing with something in life, whether it's a trigger or an experience, it feels almost like we're on a hamster wheel and we're
Mhm.
continually going around and around in circles and we feel really frustrated. And I love the fact that with the work that I do and intuitive readings and meditations and energy work, is that I get to stop that wheel for a minute and invite them to get off so that they can move beyond that wheel and understand why they're on that wheel to begin with.
Right.
And I, our conversations with
A
each
lot.
other have led to
A lot.
numerous moments like that.
There is recognizing the wheel. Oh, look, I'm on a wheel. Then there's processing, why the heck am I on this wheel and why can't I get off? And then the whole acknowledgement of the reason why we're on the wheel. Oh, I put myself on this wheel. I got it. But I've been saying a lot too. The biggest part of shadow work, I feel like, is the ability to release it. Once you acknowledge it, once you see it, once you recognize it, and take it as your own, then be like, all right, now I need to work on releasing that. Because if you don't, I feel like everything just festers in that wheel. And releasing it's not to say it's never going to happen again. You're never going to think of it again. It's gone into the ethers. But at least the initial pain or the deepest hurt leaves us with that first release. And then, when a situation might roll back again to remind us, it's not as painful, it's not as deep. And then we're quick to recognize it too. Oh, I remember this wheel. I was on this wheel for a very long time. And you're able to step out of the loop a little faster, a little easier.
Yeah, it's like it gives us permission to choose different.
Mhm.
But there's so much wisdom about ourself that happens in those moments. And I'm actually brought back to, I don't know, I had like 3 thoughts in that and I didn't write any of them down. So I'm going to go with the one that I remember.
There you go.
But I had a meditation a long time ago that I did, and I think it was for myself, but the whole meditation was using visualization or imagination that you are in the dark. You're in a dark space, you're in a dark room, you're in a dark forest, and to just sit there and be in the dark for a minute and listen. Listen to what you see, listen to what you hear. And of course, you're in a meditation within your imagination. So it's symbolic. It's what do you symbolically hear in your, if you were in this place? If you were in this place, what would you see? And letting your imagination pull forward some ideas, and the whole notion of sitting in the dark and witnessing what's around you. It's like you're sitting in that shadow of yourself, allowing things to come forward. And I think sometimes it shadow work does look like you're sitting with a box of tissues and
Mhm.
watching your own tear jerking movie.
Right.
Or maybe shadow works, that release happens by sitting in your car and screaming at a weird song, but it also, true shadow work happens when you have those moments and you allow yourself to release and you allow yourself to ask, okay, why am I brought to this situation?
Mhm.
And I think there's a couple of powerful questions that we get to ask when we are doing this work, or we get to find support from somebody to ask us, why are you brought to this situation? Why am
Mhm.
I feeling this way? What does this have to teach me? And I feel like those 2 questions, why am I brought to this situation and what does this have to teach me, are such a powerful way of getting out of the shadowy part of this work. And
Right.
I feel like I want to interject as a reminder, shadow work is important to, it's okay to seek help to help you through shadow work. And we are
Mhm.
to find, like Danielle said, find a therapist that helps you move through what you're feeling, and to lean into services and activities that help support moving through what you're experiencing. And you're not alone, and you don't have to experience it alone. And mental health and mental wellness are very important to us every day, but also while we were doing shadow work.
Right. And before I forget, because I don't have a pen near me, of course, I'm trying to remember, important not to put judgment on yourself when you're going through this. This is, you're witnessing, you're watching without judgment, or remembering without judgment. And I just lost my other thought. That's okay. We'll come back to it. Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
stifling it is not, it's just going to make it resurface again. So the important part is to to be able to sit with it. And if you can only do that in baby steps, then you do it in baby steps, however that looks and works for you, however you can get through it the best.
So, two thoughts with that. The notion of being able to say, I'm stronger than what I'm feeling at this moment is such a powerful thing. And the notion that joy and playfulness and laughter and love and community, those are all very powerful balancing tools as you move through shadow work. You don't have to sit in the more non-pleasant experiences of shadow work and only allow yourself the joy and the love when that work is done. That joy, that love, that peace, the things that help you feel balanced and help you connect to community, to reach out, are tools to help your soul grow and move through this stuff.
Right. And also, for me, I don't know about for you, but there are some times when I'm doing something, when I'm trying to process, where I have these like mind blowing aha moments. And then there's other times where it's crickets, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. You're not going to have mind blowing aha moments every single time you sit down to process your stuff. Just doesn't happen that way. So just take it for what it is that day.
And I love that. I love our conversations that we get to have, because I feel like if I'm right on the edge of a mind-blowing moment, like, I don't know, there's a part, and I understand that this work is not for everybody, and that some people will hear our conversation about shadow work and be like, and that's okay, because everybody gets to have their own experience. And if you don't resonate with our experience of shadow work, that's okay. We're okay with that. But I love the notion of when you're right on the edge of an awareness and you're like, this is the way I always experience it, but I'm open to understanding something different. Like, the excitement that I get about helping people past that is, I have a really hard time sitting on it. And Danielle, we've had conversations where there's times where I'm like, okay, you're gonna have to tell me to put my phone down and walk away if you need, because I can't set it down until we find
Just
that.
this morning, you did it to me this morning. I was just throwing out a very common rant of my own, and Caryn stopped me dead in my tracks. And as I'm ranting, I looked down to see the text she wrote, and I was like, yes, it was a very mind-blowing aha moment. Thank you very much. But they can come at any time. You don't have to be sitting in journaling. You don't have to be sitting in meditation. Maybe your friend just throws out a sentence that blows your mind once in a while, and then let it sit.
Yeah. And I love it too when I can feel that, usually my pattern for shadow work happens where I have the day where I'm eating bonbons wrapped in a blanket, crying to a movie, or yelling in the car. And then the next day I'm like, okay, I felt that. Okay, enough of that. Why am I here? And like, I can feel myself on the edge. And I know, out of having recognized, journaled, and experienced this before, what's on the other side. I know where I am. This is a breakthrough. I don't like the way it feels now, but I know I'm right on the edge of it. And like, that's when I'll reach out to Danielle or to a few other people in my life. I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. This is what I'm feeling. And it's just a matter for me of just simply sharing, this is what I feel. This is what I'm experiencing. And this is how it's been in the past. And then somewhere in that process of communication, something comes in. I'm like, oh my God. Or somebody will say something. I'll be like, oh my God, that's it. And it just, I don't know. I love that moment.
I love how you recognize your patterns. The whole chair bonbon movie, screaming in the car. Mine is shutting down. I don't have any of those moments. I just shut right down. Not talking to anybody. I'm not doing anything that brings me joy. I will sit mindlessly looking at my phone, scrolling to keep my mind off of whatever it is and completely close down. And then I get to that point where, okay, I know what you're doing. We've had enough of this now. Now it's time to open up and figure out why we're closing everything so tightly. Where are you going? You
That
get so
moment.
excited.
This is I love this stuff. This is that moment when you say, okay, what are you doing? Why you here? That's your higher self stepping in.
Mhm.
That moment where you shift from, I'm just going to sit here and scroll through my phone mindlessly, and you have something in your head that says, okay, this isn't good. We got to shift this. That's our higher self. That right there is when your higher self communicates to you.
Your higher self only allows you to sit in the pity party for so long.
Yeah.
And then they're like, snap out of it. It's time to go.
But it's also
Mhm.
not a forced thing.
Right.
We have to choose to get out of it. It's all free will. At least in
Mhm.
our experiences, it's all free will.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's that point where you hear the higher self and you hear, okay, what are you doing? That's when you know you're ready to get out of it. Because 5 minutes before that, I wouldn't have heard it.
Right. And it's that ability to stop and listen,
Mhm.
be still and know. Um and I it's funny because I feel like sometimes when I'm having conversations with people about this kind of stuff, I feel like that's part of my intuitive process with the services that I offer, that it's a natural process and I don't recognize I'm doing it. So it's hard for me to have a light conversation without breaking things down. But I think, I don't know,
I'm
I
not
love,
sure everybody likes to process as much as you and I do. I mean, I ever since I found out, like, the just like we're doing now, the explanation of shadow work and how, yes, it feels icky at first, but how empowering it feels to me. I love when something triggers me. I don't love that, but I love to be able to go, oh, I'm not angry at this. I'm angry because it's reminding me of this. And for me, that is so empowering. So I welcome shadow work. I love digging into it. Maybe not in a raw moment, but just after that. So, I'm grateful I have you to process things with all the time. And um, I encourage people to do it more if it feels good to them because it is empowering.
absolutely. And don't you feel like true shadow work when somebody, like, as practitioners or friends, when you're watching somebody be in their shadow and they're doing true shadow work, your job isn't to pull them through it, but to give them space to pull themselves through it. I'm brought back to, it was on Courageous in Creation, their Mindset Mondays a while back. I don't even remember what it was about, but they had a conversation about letting people have their reactions. And
Mhm.
that I felt so gently called out in that episode, because the whole notion of just allowing people to have their reactions, I think that shadow work is also like that. It's it's not our job to pull someone else through their shadow, and someone else's shadow work is not ours to heal.
Mhm.
It's ours to witness and empower them to heal themselves. And
Yes.
there's something really powerful when you witness that, and also disheartening when they're not ready to do that. We see things a certain way because we aren't in that shadow. Because you
Right.
hear that so often. Why is this person doing this? Why is that person doing this? We understand from a different perspective because we aren't in that experience, because we aren't
Right.
meant to grow in through that experience. So when we can let somebody have their reactions, even if they're not what we think they're supposed to have, that's powerful tool too. When you can set back and, okay, you're not ready to get out of the shadow yet. There's still something you're learning. Let
It's
me know.
yeah, it's
More.
holding space for someone. I'm here to talk it out with you, but I'm not here to save you. Somebody said to me once, it's not our job, nor can we save someone. It's impossible to save someone else, but it actually robs them of the power to save themselves.
Yep.
And that has stuck with me for years. And I don't ever want to be someone who tries to rob someone else of their power. If anything, I'm trying to teach the opposite. And you don't need me. I will hold space for you, but you don't need my opinions and, my stuff, because like you said, I'm not in that situation. You and I would act differently in the same situation. But
Absolutely.
I'm here to hold space for you. I'm here to talk to you when you need it.
I was just talking to Leah last night about a situation, and one of my most profound connections to a spirit on the other side when I first started opening up, the whole process was witnessing his courage to go through what he was going through and to hold space for his soul's experience. And the answers that he sought were not able to come out until his soul got what it needed to grow and to learn and to heal. And I remember that a definitive line in the sand. It was like a divinely guided line in the sand. None of the details mattered until his soul got, I'm going to get a little emotional with this, until his soul got what it needed to grow and heal. And there was such a protective, powerful, divine energy to that moment that I will never forget it, because I remember thinking the whole world can continue on, but his soul is the most important in this story, and his soul will get what it needs to get to before any details come out. And I think about that with shadow work. And I think that that's what introduced me to helping people in shadow work, because your soul's lessons in that powerful moment that you get to have is more important than any of the details. So letting in, okay, what am I meant to learn and grow from is such a powerful thing.
Yes, it's that buried treasure.
Absolutely.
All
Very
right,
cool.
what do you say we pull some cards now?
Love
See
it.
what we need to know about this.
Well, I'm going to use the Soul's Journey deck from James Van Praagh, because
Love it.
that's part of our journey. It's our shadow work and our highest good and higher self. Okay, what are you using today?
Oh, I thought you were going to go first. I am using my favorite, the Light Seers Tarot deck. I figured since, last time you called me out and said that I do tarot and I use oracle cards, that I should probably pick a tarot deck today. I felt called out.
All in good. All in
Would
good.
you like to go first?
Actually, no, I'll have you go, because I just pulled my cards out and I feel like I got to shuffle a couple times.
Oh, all right. I've been shuffling the whole time. So I just like to let them drop. So let's just ask, what is it that I need to share most today? What happens to be my favorite card. I love that. So it is in reverse, and I do read reversals, but I'm going to show it to you this way. And even in reverse, the Nine of Pentacles is just one of the best cards in the deck. The color green is always the first thing that shows up for me in this, because I love it. Like, I don't know if I love anything more than this color green in this card. It is so healing and fresh. It reminds me of spring emerging from the darkness, perhaps doing your shadow work and emerging for your highest good. I love that she just has everything at her fingertips for her picking. She can just choose anything she wants, always make a choice. She has that power. She's in white, and the dove, which is always this inner peace, calm, and purity to me. And I just feel like when it comes up in reverse, that we have to remember that we are this powerful, pure woman or people of choice. And really, we can have the life we want and everything we need if we continue to choose for our highest and greatest good. If we work through the icky stuff and we find out our whys and empower ourselves and know that we have everything inside of us and everything we need.
Love that.
I don't know. I'm just like, I'm tongue-tied now because I love this card so much.
I love the green as well. The things that I thought of right away is the idea that green gets to balance everything that happens in our heart space, the good, the bad, and the beautiful, and that the green nurtures and balances that area and that energy. And the symbol that popped in my mind multiple times with it was the yin yang symbol, and the idea of, we've had this discussion basically today about our higher self and our shadow self, and how we are a beautiful divine balance of that expression of both, and that they're meant to, because you've got like the darker that's underneath her, and you've got the darker green and the lighter green and all the colors, and that dove for peace, and the whole, I think it's a dove.
Yeah.
Is it okay. Sorry, I heard something. The whole notion of balancing that lighter side with the darker side. I love that. And that when we do that, that's how we emerge. That's how we come out, is when we can find balance between the two.
Indeed. And I don't know if you can see it too, but she has a little like cauldron, and there's a huge overflowing pentacle in that cauldron. And that always reminds me to just, the whole fill your cup and just living your best self.
Absolutely. Very cool. Okay. So I've shuffled this deck a few times, and usually with mine, I know you can't see, but I'll spread all the cards out in a nice rainbow fashion, to the point that my daughters recognize now, my children recognize now, especially Ava, when I spread cards out, if they don't rainbow, because that's what it's about. And then I really, in this situation, I just go with what feels like it resonates. If I'm in person, I'll have them choose a card. If I'm in a reading, I might pick my top 3 and have them choose, or whatever feels right.
Whatever you're feeling, huh?
Yep. We're going to go over here to the right side. Perseverance. How perfect is that? So we've got the purple, which to me, the purple is the higher awareness. It's that higher understanding. It's that higher perspective. It's that notion, like we were talking about, with that image of us in the valley and our guides and our divine connections standing above, looking and guiding us with the whole picture. And I feel like this purple recognized that when we persevere through the shadow work and we persevere through the journeys in life, that we connect with that higher understanding, we connect with that highest good, and that we get to nurture that. It's a journey, it's a process, it's not a destination. We continue to tap into that highest good over time through our higher self and our soul's journey. And I love that. And that to honor his work, the affirmation that goes with it, I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to, and that we get to do what we're looking to do. We get to experience that joy. We get to those, overcome those. That's work. Persevere.
Oh, thank you. You froze for a minute. So if you saw me just staring, I was like, is it going to come back? Is it not? So when I saw this card, immediately I went from the heart chakra up. So I was feeling heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye chakra, crown chakra, and that connection. And that if you're persevering and just following your heart and speaking your truth and, acknowledging and honoring your inner wisdom and inner knowing, that you will persevere. I love it.
And that when you started talking, the one thing that I saw is this reminds me of a dream catcher. And the whole notion of a dream catcher is that it sits in your window or it sits in your home, and it sits there solid, doing its own thing, and it catches the positive and the loving, and then it sorts through or filters through the more shadowy, the more negative. So the idea that you get to catch your dreams and you get to be still and know where you're looking to go. So very cool.
It's a beautiful
Very
thing.
cool.
That's a gorgeous deck.
I know. I love this deck. It's one of my newer ones that I'm in love with it. Very cool. So any other thoughts that you have for today? Any wisdom?
No, only to say, if you need some help on how to start delving into some shadow work, or trying to figure out what is for your highest good, or connecting with your higher self, that you can reach out to either one of us or both of us through our social media links, or even again on the chat feature on this. But hopefully we'll figure out how to use it correctly if someone does. If we don't, reach out to us personally. And please feel free to like, share, subscribe, click that little bell so you don't miss an upcoming episode. And you never know who else needs to hear what we are talking about today.
Perfect. Exactly what I was looking to say. Thank you for sharing this conversation with me. I love when we get to do this. And thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate these connections and look to grow them more. Very cool.
Such an honor. Thank you.
All righty. And have a uniquely divine day.